Good afternoon and welcome to the Sunshine Coast Regional District regular board meeting of Thursday, January 13th, 2022. I'd like to acknowledge that we operate on the territory of the Seashell and Squamish Nations. We have an amended agenda in front of us. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? Director McMahon.
Yes, I'd like to add an item of new business, snow clearing at bus stops.
Okay. Anything else? Seeing no further additions or deletions, I'd look for a motion to adopt the amended agenda as amended. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Thank you. So moving on to item 2, Annex A, pages 1 through 15. Are there any additions or deletions, errors or omissions in these minutes? If not, I'd look for a motion to adopt as presented. Moved. Seconded, all in favor? Thank you. Is there any business arising from the minutes or unfinished business? Director McMahon.
Yeah, I believe Director Beamish flagged this. He had a question about the Joint Watershed Committee to which we were appointed on page something or other of our minutes. I don't know if Director Beamish wants to take this.
But what I was asking for is to see if there's any terms of reference for that committee. Since it's a joint watershed committee, what is it and who all's on it and what's it supposed to do? Yeah.
And according to the research I did, it hasn't met since 2015. And the agreement, the Joint Watershed Management Agreement with the Seashell Nation appears to have expired. So it would be nice to know what is going on.
Okay, would we like staff to forward that document to us?
Perhaps just give us an update on the status of this agreement and the committee.
Okay. Would you like to make that a recommendation? Okay.
Sure.
Moved and
I'll
seconded. Okay. Any other questions or comments on that one? All those in favor? Thank you. Any other business arising from the minutes or unfinished business? Seeing none, we will move on to item 3, Annex B, pages 16 through 18. Infrastructure Services Committee recommendations numbers 1 through 3 and 6 through 8 of December 9th. Recommendations 4 and 5 previously adopted. Before we adopt these as a block, are there any that directors would like to have pulled? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to adopt the recommendations. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Thank you. Moving on to Annex C, there's been a request to pull recommendations 35, 58, and 59 for separate consideration. Are there any others that directors would like pulled? Any errors or omissions in these minutes? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to adopt recommendations 1 through 35, 36 through 57, and 60 through 63.
Chair, it's actually 1 through 34.
34, sorry, did I say 35? Okay, sorry. Thanks for the correction. Moved, is there a seconder? Seconded, all those in favor? Thank you. And then let's move to recommendation 35, which is on page, oh, passed it already. Page 35 is on page 29. So I'd look for someone to move adoption of this recommendation. Moved. Is there a seconder? Seconded. All those in favor? Those opposed? And you'd like that recorded?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Recommendation 58. on page, there we go, 36. Starts on page 36, ends on page 37. I'd look for someone to move adoption of the recommendation. Moved. Seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. And those opposed? And have it recorded as well. Recommendation 59, I'd look for someone to move adoption. Moved, seconded, all those in favor? Thank you, and those opposed? Thank you. Moving on to Annex D, number 5, pages 39 through 43. These are the Planning and Community Development Committee recommendations numbers 1 through 4 of December 16th, 2021. First, any errors or omissions in these minutes? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to adopt. Moved, seconded, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Then we have the addition of 5A, so we have to switch to the other agenda package. So late item 5A, this is pages 43A through 43C. Given they came from this morning, are there any errors or omissions in these minutes, or are they as we discussed this morning? Director Toth?
Recommendation number 6 was that 1,025,498. I don't recall if we decided to change that number or not.
I think staff had indicated that the number could stay because the project itself was going to be up to that amount. Okay. Seeing no further questions or comments, I'd look for a motion to adopt the recommendations. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. Moving on to 5B, pages 43D through F. Now, this is the AVICC recommendations. Corporate Officer, did you want to speak to this?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. So this report is to bring forward resolutions to consider for submission to the Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities Conference, which is occurring in early April. The deadline to submit resolutions is January 28th. So staff have prepared drafts based on topics previously submitted by directors, and they're presented here for your review and consideration.
Thank you. Director McMahon.
So you got to me before I could even put my hand up.
I know.
These are great. I want to say really good job. I'm happy. I think this caught most of what we were aiming for.
Thank you. Director Toth?
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the short-term rental enforcement compliance investigation issues, I note that it is identifying, solutions for regional districts, given that they are more challenged than municipalities. However, a lot of the issues that municipalities have, we also have compliance issues relating to the items that are listed in the therefore be it resolved. So I'd like to see that perhaps broadened to include options for municipalities as well. Because it's all fine and dandy that we can pull a business license, but if they don't have a business license in the first place, we have no practical enforcement options.
Thank you. Director McMahon?
Sorry. I felt that the UBCM report did not adequately address the challenges of the rural areas. I realize that municipalities have challenges too, but there are more tools available. And the proposal to set up the registry connected with online platforms, I thought was impractical and slow. Sorry, train left the station. I'll come back in a minute.
Thanks, Director Beamish.
Yeah, on the resolution with regards to the stormwater management of rural areas, this is not just a rural area issue. And I support the resolution, but I would like to see the words in rural areas, which is in the therefore be resolved clause, removed. So that it becomes, it's, the town of Gibson has issues with stormwater coming from the rural areas into. We have issues with DFO relative to the rivers and streams, and we have issues with highways. So it's not just a rural area issue. I think that the SCRD does not just represent rural areas.
Okay, so to your point, in the first whereas, it also talks about in rural areas.
Sorry, yes, I was looking for the points, but yeah, I think we should just, my view is that it should just be, yes, we all are concerned with this one. We're all concerned with those agencies. And, if we recall the conversation we had relative to the watershed, we have many of these agencies at the table on that. And, developing the watershed affects the storm runoff in and through the town of Gibson. So,
Okay. We'll hear from Director McMahon because this was put forward by Director McMahon. And then what we can do is take these away and come back at our next meeting on the 27th with final wording and or other recommendations that we've missed out on, which I'm sure our corporate office would love to see at that late stage. All right, Director McMahon.
I'm not necessarily going to disagree with Director Beamish on the stormwater issue. It's particularly acute in rural areas because of our lack of jurisdiction, but it does definitely affect municipalities as well. I don't know if there's a way to word it to say that, because it's a cross boundary. Like the water doesn't stop.
right.
Yeah.
Town of Gibson. So I do sympathize. On the short-term rental ones, the other point I just wanted to make is that because so many vacation properties are located in rural areas, we are disproportionately impacted. It's not all the rural areas in the province, but there are a number of them that are popular vacation destinations that are really struggling to deal with this. So I think and there was no representation from rural areas on the UBCM committee that put together the report.
Okay, so are we at a place where we could actually move these forward and complete them, or do we want to take them away and do a bit of wordsmithing and some conversation behind the scenes before we bring these back for the corporate officer at the meeting? Director Toth?
Thank you, Chair. Admittedly, I have not yet had an opportunity to read that short-term rental thing from UBCM, so I will defer to Director McMahon's expertise and experience with that document. But do they actually, is it a nice report that somebody put together that's now going to get put on a shelf and forgotten about? Or does it actually have timelines and implementation items that the province can move on? Because the very end of the therefore be it resolved talks about, compelling payment of unpaid fines through alternative mechanisms, such as applying uncollected ticket fines to property taxes. We can't do that in the municipalities. So if we're asking for that mechanism for rural areas and it's not identified in the UBCM document as something that is coming, then we should be asking for it for municipalities as well.
Director McMahon?
In terms of the report, it made some general recommendations, but I wouldn't say that there was a robust implementation plan. And my read on it is that, assuming the province wished to take action on the recommendations, it would take 3 to 5 years to roll out. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to go through another 3 to 5 years of the sort of complaints and problems that we're having around here. I don't think the province appreciates the urgency of the situation for a lot of people living in particular neighborhoods across the province. So what is our deadline on this again? Sorry.
Well, we would bring it back to the next board meeting, which will be the 27th of January. And we would need to adopt at that meeting because the deadline is noon on the 28th.
So I would think, yeah, perhaps we could take some of this discussion
Take this offline.
and do a little wordsmithing. But, you know, in general, we're most of the way there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Director Toth?
Yeah, just one final comment that I believe between now and then, we also have a meeting with our MLA scheduled. I believe short-term rentals are already on that discussion list. So this might be a good opportunity to just touch base with him before we bring it forward and smack the province with it.
Okay. So at this point, I'd look for a motion to receive this report and have it come back to the January 27th meeting. Thank you. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Sorry, Director Pratt?
I was just going to ask if we are going to be bringing it back, what is going to be happening between now and then? Do we have a couple of directors who would like to volunteer to work with the corporate officer on this? Or because I'd certainly put my name out there, and I know from listening to Director McMahon, and I would probably suggest Director Toth or Director Beamish based on the conversation that we've been having. So.
That sounds like a great idea. Who would like to volunteer, or should we volunteer you?
Committee set
The
up.
three of you? Okay. All right. So it'll be Director McMahon, Pratt, and Toth will work with corporate officer. So we can bring those back. Awesome. Thank you. Moving on. Item 6, Annex E, page 44. This is a letter from Annie Wise. Sorry, let me just get right to the right agenda here. Yes, a letter that, an invitation to join the South Coast Tourism Advisory Committee. And they're looking for somebody from the Sunshine Coast Regional District. Director Ties?
Yeah, I'd be happy to volunteer for that, since I am now a business owner in the tourism industry, as well as a trained tourism professional. So I think I have the pedigree.
Yeah, and a professional tourist too.
Totally. All right. Would someone like
that too? Yeah.
Would someone like to make a recommendation that Director Ties be appointed to this committee? Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Got something going on over my head here. Next up is director's reports. I've got a helicopter going over my house. So we'll start with Director Beamish, Director Lee, McMahon, Pratt, Ties, Toth, and Hiltz, because that's how you appear on my screen. So Director Beamish, and you'll have to unmute yourself first.
Yeah, and just to keep it short, I'm only going to focus on 2022 activities. And the first one, I think, was the local government show that we had on the 6th. I thought it was a very good show, a very entertaining show as well. Ed Hill was the moderator. I think he did an excellent job with us and kept us on point. And I think the conversation was excellent. And I don't know how many people tune into those things and watch them, but I think it's a very worthwhile hour spent. And we were all represented. Focus a bit on the homelessness issues we've had in Gibson's. We've got still running the drop-in, homeless drop-in, mainly because of the weather and because there are people outside who just don't have a dry place to sleep yet. So those silos have been there, and we've been looking after that. We had a meeting with Naomi from BC Housing and had a good conversation with her on the phone about different options. We're concerned in looking forward, like Seashell, there's change happening in Gibson's. We projected the Irwin Hotel, which is a very kind of a low rental district of town, is going to be vacated in early 2023, and there's approximately 29 people who will be affected by that change, and they're all the majority of them are low income and already dependent upon supports. So we're concerned about that. There were no solutions. It was just one of those things and saying, hey, here's something that's going to happen and we need to be aware of it. I spent 2 days in Vancouver and looking after my son's dog. And yeah, other than that, it's been a good start to the year. I look forward to continuing. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Lee.
Thank you. I have it already. The derelict boats remain a problem up here in Pender. During the Christmas parade, the lead boat described it as a minefield when we were going into Garden Bay, which I think is pretty accurate description. But then about a half hour later, one participant hit a derelict boat in Whiskey Slough, all dark, no lights. It didn't do much. Big boat hitting a little boat and it just pushed it aside, but could have been much worse. And we also have a problem with derelict docks, of all things. They'll anchor a dock out on a buoy and then tie up boats to it. And then once they do that, this one guy, he went and got a storage shack and put it on the dock. Everything went good until it started to blow real hard and the shack blew apart and now there's junk all over the place. And it's a real tough problem to deal with, but FERA is actually tackling it, and they've been successful in having 4 or 5 boats removed, so I'm wishing them luck on this one. FERA is our residents association, Pender Harbor and Area Residents Association, and they just had an AGM and then followed by a meeting, and they were very happy to hear that the projects that they are championing, specifically the Ruby Lake parking lot and the Catherine Lake Circle Path, are supported by our budget proposal. So if that goes forward, they were very thrilled about that. And so thank you. And the last one that I wanted to mention, and I think it might be common everywhere, and that is our unofficial campgrounds are growing up here quite badly. They're doubling in size, it seems like, every 2 weeks. And I don't know how we stop them. I think somehow we need the provincial government to step up, because my main concern is the health and safety issues. The health, because there's no way there's adequate septic systems and these things don't ever move. So it's not hard to imagine what's happening. And they've got, they're going to be heating with electrical cords strung all over the place, which again is a provincial responsibility. So somehow it seems to be left to us to lead it through, I guess, a junk bylaw. I don't know. But somehow we need to get the province starting to chase that for us. So anyways, I'm not sure we can do anything except just look at the bylaw issues, but it's kind of sad that we then run into the provincial government actually saying it's kind of okay to have these campgrounds because they could be homes. So we need to do something, but I don't know what it is. But I just thought I'd mention that we have the issue up here as well. Anyways, that's my report. Thanks.
So I have a question for you. Are you talking about Crown land?
No, it's private land.
Private land, okay.
Private land, but not zoned for what they're doing.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Director Hiltz?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Director Lee about that. So are people in these campgrounds considered homeless then? And are they part of the homeless count, do you know? Like, is there any numbers on the scale of this?
They don't have a home other than the trailer or the recreational vehicle that's there. So unless you call that a home, they're homeless. And some of them have been evicted and moved into that living arrangement as well. It's the whole spectrum. It's definitely not an upscale, someone stopping there and then going to go to Mexico when they can. That isn't it at all.
Thank you. Director McMahon.
Actually, I think Director Lee summed it up lovely. We need to do something, but I don't know what it is. That's kind of that sounds like my life right now. What have I been up to? Well, there was a lot of weather, as you may have noticed. It's been exciting to get around. I'm one of the people who enjoys snow. I enjoy slush a great deal less, but when you get slush that freezes and there's 2 inches of ice on everything, it's a whole nother adventure. And walking into town, you end up walking in the road because it's the only place that you can get a grip, and then you have to jump into a snowbank every time a truck comes along. So I began to really appreciate some of our active transportation paths even more than usual, because the Mahan Trail being a good example, is a very well used connecting trail. And yes, you could slip and break your neck, but you would not then be run over by a truck. So I think that we should, appreciate our paths a great deal more. A community group in the area has asked for an emergency preparedness workshop, which was a request that I've forwarded to staff. They held one a couple of years ago where they had a speaker come in who was an expert, and it was I think a half day or even a full day workshop held in Gibson's that had very good attendance. I think like 100 people came out. It's very topical right now, so if we have anybody who can be a speaker, great. Or if we know somebody who could come in and be the speaker, that would be awesome. But I know there's demand. I too enjoyed the last local government show. I thought it was a good conversation. I have been pursuing, since we haven't had a lot of meetings recently, I've had some time to pursue a few other things. I was on the phone yesterday with representatives from BC Hydro. They have changed the qualifications now for their energy conservation assistance program for low-income homeowners to include manufactured homes. And that's really good news for all of the mobile homes on the Sunshine Coast, of which there are a great many. They have a pilot program. Well, they've had a long pilot program on, and the program is now happening. They send a consultant out to work with the homeowner and assess the home. And if it qualifies and the homeowner qualifies, there's the possibility of underbelly insulation and duct sealing for free, and possibility of a free fridge replacement, all of which is great. So I'm sending out more information when I get it, and I'll be looking for half a dozen homeowners who are interested in participating. To if we need enough, that they'll send staff up here. But I really hope that we can do this, because the people who need these programs the most are the ones who frequently can't access them. I attended the soft launch yesterday of a new platform called EarthNet, which is a nonprofit platform for climate activism. It's actually very interesting. I was quite skeptical going in, but it's intended to be a very user-friendly, accessible platform that addresses many of the issues that we have with Facebook, frankly. People don't want to be there anymore for lots of good reasons. So very interesting. I'll be sending information about that around too. And I've been pursuing a bunch of interesting questions in my spare time, like the question of why no regional district has ever gotten subdivision approval authority, despite the fact that that has been an option for decades now. You can apparently, through an order in council, get that authority, but no regional district has ever done so. And that just got me really interested. So I am pursuing this through all sorts of avenues to find out what the answer to that question is. And yeah, and otherwise, yes, keeping busy.
Thank you. Director Pratt.
Thank you. I'm going to actually just start with Director Lee's comment around the RVs and camping and whether or not those numbers are captured in the homelessness count. And I would, my suggestion would be that they're probably not. They might be considered under precariously housed, but technically these people are not homeless. They do have a place that they are living. It may be seen as not being suitable by regular standards, but in a lot of cases, these are homes that people are living in for it, but it's more of a precarious housing situation. It'd be no different. It slightly more permanent than a couch surfing situation, but I have to say we have. This is not a new issue for the Sunshine Coast. This is something that's been going on for a really long time. And the reason it's becoming more and more visible because of the high numbers that we're seeing here. But I certainly know in my time as a realtor, I've certainly seen a number of these happening. And also with, well, having lived here for over 27 years, I've certainly know families that have been doing this for a long time and individuals. So it's definitely something that we need to talk more about and not be scared to talk about too. So you know, it's good to give it light of day. And with that, just to segue into what my Christmas Day was like, is I actually spent my Christmas Day down in Gibson's at the warming center and volunteering my time because just so other people could be with their families, because I knew my kids were going to be busy or spending it with their dad. So after Christmas morning breakfast, went up to Gibson's, or down to Gibson's, I guess I should say, and spent the majority of the day down at the warming center and speaking with a few of the people there and just helping out and visiting and it was good. It was eye-opening, and it's definitely something that if you've got some time to put in, I would suggest it's always helpful. There's a lot of volunteers that are helping out there, and they can always use some additional support, even if you don't have specific homelessness. I'm going to say that additional training. They can always use somebody who may not have that training just to provide some additional support. And certainly if you've got any items, it's always worth a phone call to either the Salvation Army or one of the other entities that's handling to find out what they may need. One thing that I did find out is disposable cups, like disposable coffee cups. So just in case somebody wants to take a coffee and go, they can do that kind of thing. Otherwise, what I've been up to, dealing with a lot of questions around roads and because we got a lot of snow up here too, and driving in it as well, which was fun, and it always is. And you know, we've had a lot of damage in the Half Moon Bay area from all of the water and everything, including some significant damage on Red Roofs Road. And then if you're on the 101, we've got some flooding issues up by Tap Road. Right on last night, it was all the way across the highway. If we're going to call it a highway, because as you get a little bit closer to Trout Lake, you end up with Pothole Alley, especially around the Leaning Tree to Trout Lake area, and they've patched that a number of times. However, until it can be repaved, it's really going to be it's taking your vehicle life in your hands as you drive through there and swerving around. Trying to evade potholes. For other things that I've been up to for the regional district, I just wanted to send kudos out to Director Toth and Director Ties for the public hearing on Tuesday night, as well as to staff. I sat through as about half of that, and I know contentious, and so well done to directors and staff. For handling that. Budget last night, that was a great session for areas D, E, and F. Well done. Looking forward to areas A and B tonight. Director Lee and I have, we're going to try and outdo you, I think, aren't we, Len? Try and do better, see how many people we have show up to ours too, right? I don't know, we should have, placed bets there. And otherwise, just, getting back in the swing of things after the beginning of the year. And yeah, I enjoy the snow too. Certainly made a few snow angels and threw some snowballs for the dog, and enjoyed what I could. So, but it's also nice to not have it hampering abilities to drive and walk. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Ties.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Happy New Year, everyone, and it's good to be back. There's been a lot of weather. I'd like to thank Lori's daughter, who came out and shoveled snow for a couple hours at the marina while I was gone. I still owe her some money. She never got back to me, so you can let her know. I spent 3 days on the snowblower once I got back, clearing snow off the docks. So good times were had. But I'd like to thank especially the planning staff, but also Director Toth and everybody that showed up at the public hearing on Tuesday. It went smoothly, and I could really notice the process improvements that have happened, and it makes for a better experience for everyone. So thank you, staff, for putting all that work in. And it sure is noted and appreciated. And then yesterday, also thank you to Aidan Buckley, the communications team, as well as GM Perot for the budget information session. And it was good to be able to do that and answer some questions. I hope the rest of the information sessions go as smoothly as the one yesterday did. That's it for me. Thank you. And I'll hand it on.
Thank you. Director Toth.
Thank you, Chair. Let me find my very brief notes here. As has been mentioned, had that public hearing a couple days ago. This is the first one I've chaired in a while. Been feeling a little off the last couple days, so it was a little bit of a struggle to get through that 2-page script, but we got there in the end. I think it was an hour and 45 minutes or so for that public hearing. So we also have a District of Seashell public hearing coming up on the 19th for TELUS Living in the downtown core. That is on a Wednesday. And we'll see how that goes. Other than that, not much to report. Been busy. Not a lot of District of Seashell stuff going on to report on right now. Spent a week off coast. Got trapped for a couple of days due to the snow and the weather. But I'm back. I'm here. And that's all I have today. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Hiltz.
Thanks, Chair. I'm gonna start off with the budget. The budget information session, second year going, better than ever. I looked at the last year's, and thanks to CFO for kind of leading us through the presentation. I think it definitely went smoother. Constituency issues, dominated by the snow and the cold. Helping people connect with CAP highways and Ministry of Transportation. I live on a 6D road, which was a 4x4 only for up until a couple days ago. an interesting one was Gambier Island in the New Brighton area. They're a 4D road, which is CAP subcontracts it out to a local contractor who has a skidder, but they forgot to do it this year. So it took them a while just to kind of reconnect. So in typical Gambier Island fashion, they passed the hat, got someone out there with a different skidder and paid for it until they got the contract kind of sorted out. So that's the Gambier spirit over there. They look after themselves. I did miss the public hearing. I will look forward to looking at it at maybe 1.75 times the speed, I think. I was at a West Howe Sound Community Association meeting, and they're again readjusting to the COVID situation and looking forward to in-person meetings. They're going to try something in February, but we'll see how that goes. Quite a bit of things happened with the Gibsons and District Public Library over the Christmas break. You probably heard about the sprinkler malfunction, which caused a fire department call out and some flooding in the underground parking lot and the closure of the Gibsons Library. And that was resolved. It seems to have been related to the cold weather and perhaps some pipe corrosion. And just expressing thanks to SERD staff, particularly Jesse and other people who helped with them resolving that issue. It's happened, I think it started on the 27th at 10 o'clock at night. So they got back together. There's a little bit more work just to insulate the pipes, but I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that as staff brings that forward. I guess special thanks to the town of Gibsons, right? They contributed, they invited the library to apply for some COVID restart funding, and that has been granted by the town. It was noted in the paper, and I understand that will roll through the budget and perhaps reduce the overall request from tax requisitions from participants. The Hull and Lands Committee has received these conceptual drawings for the Hull and Lands, and that was presented at Gibsons Council, I believe, this week. The library, one of the other things that they're pursuing is these are called like a book locker self-serve kiosk, which is they're looking at locating at GACs, and I understand that the SERD staff have been talking to them about that. So it's another way to expand the service into Upper Gibsons. And apparently the self-serve kiosks out in the world have been really accelerated during COVID as people are shifting to a technological and touchless kind of contacts and things like this. So there seems to be a resurgence in self-serve kiosks. Final thank you, I guess, goes to the Gibsons Fire District Commission, where we met first week of January to reconsider and get some more information on the capital funding leading into the budget. So yeah, I think that wraps it up. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so since Christmas, last Friday, I spent the day with Island Coastal Economic Trust. The CEO is retiring, probably midway through the year. She's agreed to stay on, for a substantial transition period. So I'm on the recruitment committee for the new CEO. So we actually shortlisted down to a couple of candidates and anticipating that we will be offering a contract to somebody this week or next week to get that moving forward. I had a meeting, just a telephone meeting with the new executive director for the Hospice Society here on the Sunshine Coast. One of the things that I have been requesting is that they actually do long range planning. Currently, we have 2 beds for hospice on the Sunshine Coast. It's not sufficient. The plan that had come out through Vancouver Coastal Health was to have 4 beds. And while they recognize that 4 beds may be sufficient now, it won't be sufficient into the future. So they're actually looking at how do they come up with a plan for the long range planning piece. So it was, I have some stuff to talk to our CFO about and a couple of other people. So we'll see what we can help support them in moving that forward. Over the years, I come from a couple of big families. Like my parents both had big families. Like my mom from family of 12, my dad from family of 8. So lots of cousins, lots of, just big families. So I've had lots of experience with hospice over the years, not only with immediate family members, but with good friends as well. It's an invaluable service. And one of the things that was pointed out during the conversation was that many people don't realize that there are services that are available before somebody needs to go into a hospice bed. And so they're looking at how to get that information out. So they may be doing some more, like maybe a med talk or something coming forward, so that people in the community are aware of the services that they offer, because they're invaluable in what they do. I had the regular monthly meeting with the director of the hospital, Marie Duperreau. This was more just a touch base this time, coming back from vacation for both of us. The conversations that we're having are around the need for space, because District of Seashell, SCRD, and VCH all need space. So what does that look like going forward? Right. So we're looking, they're going to be setting up a committee of various people to investigate their needs and looking at how they can coordinate with the other organizations on the Sunshine Coast. I want to congratulate Director McMahon, Director Hiltz, and Director Ties for your session last night. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. You guys handled the questions really well. And it is, like Director, I think it was Director Hiltz or Director Ties said it was an improvement this year. When he said that, I mean, because it's our comfort level too, right? In being out in front and being the person kind of taking the lead on those questions. I think staff are happy for us to do that. they don't have to, because some of the questions, I mean, they're political questions, right? They're not necessarily, why are you spending, $50 here or there or whatever. It's why are you making the decisions that you're making? And those aren't questions that staff can ask. So thank you for being there last night. And I look forward to Director Pratt and Director Lees tonight. And next week, Director Beamish will be on the hot seat in Gibson's, and Director Toth and I in Seashell. So check us out, see how we do. See if we do as well as you. I like coming last because we can actually steal some of your answers. It works. What else have I got here? District of Seashell is working on putting together a grant application for the Poverty Reduction Action Plan implementation. So when the Sunshine Coast applied for funding, District of Seashell took the lead on that. We actually contracted it out to put together that Poverty Reduction Action Plan. At the time, there were funding streams to actually implement. Those streams disappeared, and we've been watching. They've actually come back. I believe the deadline is something like February 12th, 14th, somewhere in there. So that application is being put together. So we'll be seeing something probably come forward to the regional district asking for board support of the grant application as well. And then I just wanted to say a thank you to staff. I know that, while we as directors, we're fielding questions, etc., the staff, while they're on holidays, are still dealing with whatever comes up. They don't really get an opportunity to just step away and turn off their phone. They're still available. And, that it's the GMs, but it's also staff underneath that are out there and supporting the community, particularly when we have these kinds of weather events. They're working. So on behalf of the board, I want to extend a thank you to you for all you do. That is, nobody really sees in the public, but we recognize that you're out there doing that. And please extend that to your staff, the staff that report to you as well. We really do appreciate it. And we acknowledge that there's a lot of work that you do that most people don't see. All right. Thank you. All right. I think that's all of us. Next up is new business, snow clearing at bus stops. Director McMahon.
Yes. This is something of a perennial problem, but I have to say that this year is the worst that I have ever seen it. We have a lot of bus stops that are rudimentary and that we don't have control over, and we don't have the capacity to maintain them. But I feel very strongly that there are half a dozen critical bus stops, all of them in the municipalities, that need to be maintained. And the ones I'm talking about would be Trail Bay Mall, Wilson Creek at the IGA, Sunnycrest Mall, and the IGA Plaza in Gibsons, which is also where the medical clinic is. The bus stop in front of Sunnycrest Mall in particular was absolutely treacherous. Not only the pedestrian part of the bus stop, but the part where the bus was pulling in. I watched the bus slide in and slam into the curb. It was a sea of ice. And, you know, I really feel very strongly that as the transit operator, we should try and work with the municipalities to come up with a better solution. I have people in my community who are dependent on transit, and they were taking their lives in their hands to take the bus to the mall to get groceries. It's not an acceptable situation where it's okay if somebody slips and falls and breaks their neck because we don't have responsibility. We can do better than this. Even with a couple of pots of sand to throw on the bus stop. So I'm wondering if staff could look into some possible strategies on how we can make sure that people can safely use critical bus stops in inclement weather.
Okay, would you like to make a recommendation that perhaps our staff liaise with the municipal staff to ensure that, and ensure that this is a discussion and report back to what we can do? Okay, and Director Beamish, are you seconding that?
No,
Or you want to talk to it?
I'm going to say that all bus stops are critical. We don't know who is getting on and off the bus, what their physical condition is or their age. And to identify some as opposed to all, I think would be inappropriate. I think all bus stops should get attention during weather. So I think that the other area that I see has been challenging are mailbox areas. Pulling up in front of a mailbox, trying to get to your mailbox. These are all services that people use. And so I think that I wouldn't single out any bus stop. I would say they're all critical. And there are elderly people who live in rural areas who use rural bus stops. There's people with physical disabilities who use rural bus stops. So I think they should all get attention. So.
Okay, our CAO's got his hand up.
Hi, this is my first time to check the mic in the boardroom today. Am I talking to dead air? Can anybody hear me speaking? We're good. Okay, I don't know the urgency as to which you would like this conversation to occur, but we have started some discussions on a periodic or actually a regular basis with the town of Gibsons on interjurisdictional issues that we are going to be expanding to include the district of Seashell in the near future. And if this is something, this seems like the type of topic that would be appropriate for discussion at that interjurisdictional table. I would be happy to bring that forward with GM Gagnon when we convene next as a group of local governments, if that works.
Thank you. Director McMahon?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that it is a social equity issue, in my view. The conditions that were prevalent at the bus stops, the ones I've mentioned anyway, would never have been allowed on the roads, right? There's two levels of snow removal service, one for vehicles and another one for pedestrians, and that's just, it isn't right. So.
All right, so we did have a recommendation come forward. It has not been seconded. Do we need to move that forward, or do we, CAO, do you need us to have a recommendation, or are you just going to add this to your list?
I'm happy to add it to the list.
Thank you. Director McMahon?
I actually would like to make sure that this returns to one of our agendas in future.
Okay, so the recommendation is that the SCRD staff liaise with the municipal staff in addressing snow removal at bus stops. That's generic enough that they can address what Director Beamish was also talking about.
And report back.
And report back, yes. All right, is there a seconder for the recommendation? Seconded, all right. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Thank you. I'm just gonna make a comment. So I spent majority of Christmas out in Alberta, in Calgary, particularly with my family, the kids and grandkids. And I was watching what was happening out here because we were getting snow out there at the same time. And the topography is different, right? Definitely topography is different. How houses are built is different. Driveways are different. You would never see, I mean, we were horrified when we came out here and saw some of the driveways that are out here because you'd never have them out there because of the weather. But if you look at snow removal, they only clear the bus routes. That's it. You know, and the main roads, they don't do alleys, they don't do side streets, they don't do any of that. And then watching what was happening out here, what I was seeing was that, yes, we got a lot of snow, more than what we're used to dealing with. And then we had a freeze-thaw cycle, right? It would freeze, it would thaw, it would freeze, it would thaw. So many of the complaints I had, yes, valid. It's difficult to get down this street or go down this road or walk on this sidewalk or whatever. But how do you deal with that when you've got that freeze-thaw piece where the water, you know, goes across the sidewalk and then freezes? And then it thaws and it's gone and it freezes again, right? So it's back and forth. It's like it's more complicated here to deal with that. On top of the fact that we aren't resourced. We don't have the staff and the equipment to be able to deal with snow, and we won't be resourced because it's going to go away in a couple of weeks. I think this is the longest we've had snow in one period for probably a couple of years, you know, or Director Pratt?
2008.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah. So we've got all of that we're playing with, right? It's a different arena that we're playing in, but it is a conversation that needs to be raised, particularly for, as you said, those who, they're getting around on the bus and that's their option. We need to make sure that they can get around and do what they need to do. So thank you for bringing that forward. Any other, do we have an emergency item thing on here? No new business, no in camera. I'd look for a motion to adjourn. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Thank you. Now we don't have anybody in the gallery. Do we have any questions that came forward during the meeting? No questions? All right. Great to see you all. Look forward to when we can see you in person again. Goodbye.
Yeah.